All right, welcome back to another episode of the Level Up Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Miller. I'm a real estate agent and team leader with the Tyler Miller team at eXp Realty. And I started this podcast because I just feel that the bar is pretty low in the real estate industry, and I wanted to do my best to help raise the bar. So the concept of this podcast is I meet with top producers and influential realtors across the nation, where the goal is to help raise the bar and dig into what they're kind of doing in their business to become those top producers. So get into their habits, their hacks, their routines, and strategies. And so my advice when listening to this or watching this is to try to take one or two things away from this podcast. There's going to be a lot of info thrown at you. It's like going to one of those conferences and we don't do anything after because there's 50 ideas. Just take one or two away and try to implement it into your business. And, these things do work and they could help you become a top producer. So with that being said, I'm very excited today to welcome my amazing guest and business partner, Adam AJ Pettersen.
Oh, thanks for having me, Tyler. This is great.
I'll never call you Adam again, but just for those...
I get Adam all the time, though.
Do you really?
Because people go on showing time requests, and then they start texting me. And
Can't
it
you
says
change
Adam.
that?
I think so, but I haven't done it yet.
Okay, so anybody that's out there, if you want to find him anywhere, you got to look for Adam Pettersen, which is the dumbest thing. His name is AJ, people. So for those of you who haven't ever met AJ, I wrote down some things that I think of when I think of the wonderful AJ Pettersen. So here's what I wrote down. I typed because we don't write.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
First thing I wrote down, top producer, Engel and Volkers, and now eXp Realty. Correct me if I'm wrong. You were the number one realtor in Minnesota at E&V before you left?
I won the awards, I think.
He won the awards, people.
There may have been, the owner of the company may have sold more than me, but they gave me the award anyhow. So.
Well, you were like, other than the owner, you were the number one there. So top producer, Twins baseball player.
Kind of. Minor league baseball player.
Well, you were there.
I did wear a jersey.
You wore it.
Yeah.
You were there. Family. And that can go in a bunch of different ways.
Yep.
But when I typed it, I thought of your business is involving your brothers and their wives and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And your wife.
Absolutely.
So family, incredible investor, Burr method. That could be a whole nother podcast.
Yes,
Dude.
yes.
That could be a whole nother podcast. It probably will be a whole nother podcast. I put in all caps, systems.
Yeah, love systems.
He's a freak in the spreadsheets.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I'm buying you that shirt.
I like it.
Yeah, so age, and the reason I wrote that is, and I also wrote / Goodwill Hunting, because AJ has a brilliant mind.
Well, thank you.
You do.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's, thank God you're smart, because I don't know what else you would do. He's a face for radio. No, I'm just kidding. No, but AJ, one of the smartest guys I know, especially in this industry, but just in general. Just super, super smart guy. If you ever need anything broken down, just running numbers, like AJ's the guy. So nerdy, but in a good way. Has 2 phones.
Yes.
Life hack. And is one of the nicest guys I know.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
They're very kind words.
Yeah. So
Appreciate it.
I just wanted to give everybody a quick little idea of, if you tuned into this podcast, who you're going to be hearing from. And that's the way that I would sum up AJ if I had to do it in like 10 different ways. So today we're going to be unpacking AJ's superpower. Pew, pew.
There we go.
Superpower. His superpower, when I asked him, he had 3 superpowers. So that's a flex.
I had something. I gave you some options, things I could talk about.
Yep. But his main superpower, and I agree with this, is finding his niche or helping people find their niche and passion within the industry and going all in on it. So we're going to talk about that. But really quick, I gave you my intro of, what AJ is all about, but I want to hear from you, AJ. Why don't you give us a quick background, tell everybody about your family, where you're from.
Ooh, okay. I'm from Minnetonka, currently residing
Cake eater.
Oh, that's Edina. Take it easy.
Okay. To this Blaine guy, you're both cake eaters.
Yeah. Currently residing about 10 doors down on the same side of the street that I grew up on. with my wife, 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, Holden, Brody, and Daphne. Yeah, I mean, I run a team of 30 to 35 agents. We sell we'll sell anywhere from 380 to 400 homes this year.
Only 380 to 400 guys.
Yeah, we really wanted 400. I've been doing this for almost 10 years now, which is pretty wild. As Tyler mentioned, I played baseball before then. Went to the U of M, got drafted by the Twins, played for 3 years. Went to that heartbreaking loss yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that.
Terrible. But I did play with a couple of those guys, so it's really fun to stay in the game. And my kids are now more into sports, which has been super, super fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
So
I was going to ask you how you handled it yesterday.
It was tough.
I was watching it with the family. I was getting into it.
14 strikeouts, 30 swings and misses.
I know.
That was difficult. But the atmosphere was really, really cool. It was just fun to see Minnesota Twins fans be excited about it.
It was super loud on TV. Like, you could hear the crowd.
We were standing almost the whole game.
Yeah.
So
that last pitch, though. Strike?
We just exited right away. But he had one earlier where he got punched out.
It was. Can you appeal that?
No, they're trying to implement a system where you can appeal a certain number of pitches per game as the batter.
Right.
Where you just call up to the booth and they quick tell you if it's a ball or a strike. The one big one Max got punched out on earlier was, I think, like 4 inches outside, and we stole the base on it too, and it was with 2 outs. So anyway, we don't need to get too much into baseball, but
that'll be a whole nother episode again.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, so got drafted by the Twins. You have how many kids?
3 children.
3 children. 2 boys and a girl.
2 boys and a girl.
And you've been married to Emily for
almost 11 years. 11 years next Friday.
Wow. Well, happy early anniversary.
Thank you.
And then you mentioned, you guys sell between around 400 houses, 30 to 35 agents, currently at eXp Realty. And what's your primary market? What do you specialize in?
That's a great question. Our team, I would say, specializes in first-time home buyers would be the biggest thing. For me, it's now, I always tell people in real estate, and you probably sense this being in for a while, I tend to work with a lot of people that are just like me because they're my friends. That's my network.
Yep.
So at the beginning, I worked with a lot of first-time home buyers. Then I worked with a lot of people selling and buying bigger houses.
Yep.
I do a lot of new construction. But our team is scattered throughout the Twin Cities. So we've got, Northeast, West, South, everybody.
Yeah,
so.
Cover all the bases, basically.
Exactly.
That should be your slogan.
Covering all the bases.
Did you ever think about
No, I had one early on that was leading you home.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You had mine?
Yeah.
Oh,
before you had it.
Did I steal it from you and I didn't even know?
Yeah. I didn't really go for it. It's okay. I didn't go for it.
It sucks. It's the worst.
It's great.
For you, it would have been great.
It was a base.
Yeah. For me, it makes no sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
For you, though, you're dude, covering the bases.
Covering the bases.
We're going to have a new team name by the end of this.
Yeah, we will. Totally.
And then where can people find your business? Where are you located and where should they go to look up more about you?
Yeah, so our office is in downtown Hopkins, 9th and Main Street. Super fun. If you're walking down Main Street, you'll see a big neon sign in the window.
It's a really cool spot.
Yeah, it's fun. We are the Advisory Realty Group, so theadvisorymn.com, and I believe all of our handles are just the Advisory MN. So
I think it is. Yep.
Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok.
You can find your brother all over TikTok.
He is all over TikTok.
I love it. Every time I go on there, he's got a nice tip for someone.
I can talk more about how he figured out how to do that system at some point too. So
I would love to. That's great. And then, so you started out at E&V?
Remax Results.
Remax Results.
For 10 months with Jeff and Lindsay.
Yep.
They we were at the Dyna office, and within a month we were at the Loren Park office, and within 10 months they had opened Engel Volkers. So I moved around a lot in my first year. So 2015 is when they started Engel and Volkers. It's about 5 of us. By the time I left in 2019, I think it was like 60 to 70 agents.
Yep.
So it was kind of fun to watch that whole thing grow.
Yeah. And then when you got in the industry, I mean, did you have success immediately? Did it take a little bit of time? Like how did that go in your first couple of years?
Yeah, and we can get more into this too in the podcast, but I'm very much like an action-driven guy. So I showed up my first day. I said, okay, what do I do? And they said, load all your friends into your CRM and start reaching out and see if they want to do coffee or lunch. And I was like, really, that's it? And they're like, yeah, that's really it. And then you can shadow Lindsay for a couple of days and do whatever. And so I did that, and I literally reached out to, I think I took my my wedding list.
Yep.
And I just started reaching out. I'm like, you want to do coffee? You want to do coffee? They're like, if somebody doesn't want to do coffee with you, they're not really a friend anyways.
That's probably true.
And I've never really sold anybody on anything. Like, that's what I love about real estate is it's not like insurance sales where everybody's a potential customer.
Right.
If someone's not looking to transact and buy a house or sell a house, you can't really be like, you should sell your house.
Right.
Right? Like,
you can't really convince them to do it.
no, where it's like, you could be like, you need a whole life policy, you know,
Right.
and then you can try and hard sell people.
You could die.
Yeah. So I've never done
Which is
that,
true.
right? So I just reached out to people. And like I said, I had played 3 years of baseball. So I was 26 years old when I got into real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that happened to be a really good time for people to be buying their first house.
Yeah. That was probably the age of the first-time home buyers back then. Now it's like in the low 30s,
It's
I think.
yes,
right?
exactly. And I just kind of ran into, I think I did 25, 26 transactions my first year, all just within my network.
Yep.
No leads, no nothing.
Yep. Same with me.
Yeah. So it really kicked off quickly, and
But
that's
who
what
would
I
have
tried to
thought
train on.
just asking people to coffee?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's really not that difficult.
This is like totally sidebar, but like, was there something that you can point to in those coffee meetings that was like the thing that really helped you close that many deals?
What was cool, to be honest, is I ended up being really thankful for my parents because I realized that I must have been a pretty good guy when I was younger. Because you don't remember, right? Like you're in 6th grade, you're like, was I nice to people?
Right.
You know? And I know the people who weren't nice to me in 6th grade. But everyone seemed to have like a pretty good view of who I was and that I was trustworthy. And like you said, that I was an intelligent guy, that I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I spent so much time once I got into the industry trying to understand it, right? And figure out what my niche is. And I know we'll get to that. And I just got better and better and I got more knowledgeable. So at the beginning, it's like, I don't really know what I'm doing. People like me
Yeah.
and they're friends with me. And they're like, I don't know anybody else, so I'll probably just do it with you. And I was on a team at the time. And
Yep.
Jeff and Lindsay were obviously incredibly helpful.
Right.
They'd come to buyer meetings with me. They'd do all that stuff with me so that I didn't look like a total idiot. Like, this is my first time,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. I had my dad come to my first listing appointment.
There you go, right? I mean,
my dad's in the industry, but yeah, I was just like,
he's like, it's not my first time. I
don't
can
know what
help
I'm
you.
doing.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even know what to say. So that was like super helpful and really kicked things off for me.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Shout out to Jeff and Lindsay. Those guys are awesome.
They're great.
All right, so this is the point of the podcast where people need to sharpen their pencils and take a few notes. So we're going to go deep on your superpower, niche, whatever we want to say.
Niche. It's a shower niche, I think. I like to say niche.
I say both. It's like
Why are those the same word, by the way? Where you put your shampoo is the same thing as being.
I don't know.
Are they spelled the same? I
think
they
so.
are.
I think so.
Very interesting.
English is a crazy language. If you actually talk to other people outside of our world, they're like, it's like one of the hardest
It doesn't
ones
make
to
any
learn.
sense, yeah.
But okay, so like I said, you feel that the one thing that's made you great is finding your niche. So talk about it. Like what tips do you have for people when they're struggling and there's like, gosh, what can I do to start selling more houses? And maybe this is that thing for them that it's just like, you know what, I'm going to stop being so broad. I'm going to stop trying to cast 15 different lines in the water, which I'm a big proponent of, but I know that there's different ways. So let's talk about it.
Yeah. So I was an economics major at the University of Minnesota, and I've always been very passionate about math, just numbers, how they work.
Nerd.
Yeah, exactly. Nerd alert. But I've been always very interested in numbers and like the psychology of money. So that's not, I don't think that economics just covers the broad stroke of what's going on in the real estate industry, but it does cover, like the word utility is one that I use often with clients still, and I used back then, which is if these countertops bring you way less utility than the rest of the market, that's a strike against this house because you want to rip them out, but 5 other people might walk in the door and really like them.
Right.
So understanding how people spend money and how they think about money in regards to utility and what brings them utility was incredibly helpful early on. And I think being passionate about it was what was very important. So I think some people try to get into, like you said, 15 different things.
Right.
And they're maybe only really interested in 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
The other 12 or 13, you're probably not going to end up being very good at because you're just not that interested in it.
You're just doing those things most times because you don't want to feel like you're going to miss an opportunity, right? But it's not your passion.
Exactly.
It's not like what you get pumped about. Right?
Exactly.
So
it's like social media, right? Like I do it because I kind of have to. I don't love it. I really like to write, so I try to write when I feel compelled to do so. Some people, like you talked about Luke, he's really good at it and he really likes it. So he's able to shoot some really awesome videos and do a really great job because he's interested in it. And if I was super interested in it, I would go all in on it. Yeah. I just happen to be interested in economics, right? The one other thing that I think is become my niche is I grew up knowing how to do nothing when it comes to houses. So the funny story I have is that we bought our first house and there was this like laundry table in the basement made out of wood, it was painted green. And I was like, this thing just looks kind of stupid. I want to sand it down, make it wood, restain it, seal it. I'm like, this is a great first project for a guy who has no idea what he's doing.
Right.
So I get out the rotary sander and I start sanding this thing down and I start feeling kind of lightheaded. And then I was thinking back and I'm like, remember those classes in real estate when you learned when lead-based paint went out of play?
Yep.
This house was built well before that. So I was sanding this table down and I'm inhaling, I'm like taking in all this lead, right? Yeah. And I'm like, what an idiot I am. Like I started getting sick. Yeah. So I'm sure I got some lead exposure from this. Yeah. But then I learned from that thing and then I moved on to the next thing. I tiled the whole laundry room. Then I was like, yeah, it'd be fun to do this basement. I don't know how I made that jump, but
yeah, that's a big jump.
That's what I did.
From inhaling lead to, I'm going to just finish my basement.
It's crazy. Well, so my wife was 6 months pregnant at the time with our first. And I'm like, this Knotty Pine's not going to work for us. I want to reframe the whole thing. So I still can remember in my brain, I'm like shoving boards of pine out the window. Yeah. And Emily's bending over with her belly and grabbing them and walking them to the front and putting them in the dumpster. Yeah. But we ripped it all ourselves. I general contracted the whole basement. I ended up doing the basement bathroom myself pretty much entirely. So all with permits, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, did all the tiling, all the sheetrock, all the painting, everything. And I learned that working with my hands and understanding like what you can do to make something become something else was just super cool to me. And I was super fascinated by it. Yeah. And it just happens to be a really good thing for you to know if you are a realtor or a team leader or you're trying to help people understand what costs what projects you could do, what you should hire out, all that sort of thing. And I moved on from that to doing my own kitchen. So we ripped a wall out, we opened the whole thing up. Then we sold the house like a month later, so it was really great. We got to really enjoy that kitchen. Yeah. And now it's been crazy to see that because like you said, we got into real estate investing. I manage all those projects, which I've probably done $1.2 million of projects in the past 6 years. Yeah. Doing a massive renovation addition on my house right now that I'm managing. So just I'm interested in it. So I'm passionate about it. I'm very into it. But it's really translated into helping my clients, my agents, and everybody understand those sorts of things. And it's made me kind of the go-to for sure for my network, but also for people, agents, other people within our business partners, whoever that need help with that sort of thing. Yeah. I've become a guy that they go, hey, I need help with this thing. What do you think about this? Let me run this by you or whatever. So
right, and I can speak to that. We did a training with you like a year ago.
Oh yeah,
where you walked us through one of your investments or was it just
no? It was just it's a standard house. Yeah,
it was just a listing. But you walked us through and like kind of told us about just everything about the house, and it was an incredible training. My team members still are like, that training was so cool.
We still do them. So if you'd like to come to another one, we've been rotating who does them, but. Okay. But yeah, that's like I tell people when I look at a house, I just see it so much differently than what other people do.
I use a tip from it, by the way, now, because I think it was in that bathroom you pointed out how you can tell if it's professionally done or not.
Yes.
With the tiles?
Yes, if they're centered or not centered. Because most people think that you start your tile in the corner and you actually start it in the middle.
So I've used that seriously like 20 times since.
Yeah, and people go, oh, wow, how'd you know that? And you're like, oh, well, the right way to do it would have been like this. And then they go immediately, oh, that guy knows what he's talking about.
And it doesn't change the fact that they're going to buy the house or not. Like, that part's irrelevant. It's just they trust you. They know that you know what you're doing.
Exactly.
And it all came from you deciding to sand lead paint off of a
bingo. There you
countertop.
Go. Right. Exactly.
But, yeah, no, that's amazing. I think whether it's the analogy of using your hands, understanding the house, or something else, I think it's just before you give advice and before you can advise people, you need to know what the hell you're talking about, right?
Yeah, you can only
sometimes
fake
you
it.
got to do it.
Yeah, you can only fake it till you make it for so long, right?
Well, the people that like the realtors out there that don't own a house, for example, and it's like, whatever, if that's a personal decision, I get it. Like, maybe it makes sense for them because for some certain circumstance, but if they're just like going to live here for 30 years and not buy a house, like, it seems odd to me that you're selling real estate.
Yeah, going
You know
through
what I
the
mean?
process
Yeah.
is like the most. I mean, I say that about vendors, right?
Yeah.
Like I got interviewed. I have a vendor that I work with closely with my clients, and they were trying to rebrand kind of what they're doing. They've got a lot of vertically integrated business and so they have this marketing company helping them. And the thing I told them is working with them personally was the best way that I can tell you what I feel about them.
Right.
I refer them because one of the owners is my very good friend.
Yeah.
But I mean, like it's a company that you wouldn't hear feedback from. It's it's a very simple company. So
Right.
like having them then help me because they've helped with my project that I'm doing now. Now I got to experience firsthand, how their process is, how their communication is.
Yeah.
Which has just been so much better for me to be able to portray those sorts of things. So just having those experiences,
Yeah. Right.
whether that be, doing your own project, owning your own home or whatever, going through the process of buying a home or going through the process of selling a home, how stressful it is and you can speak to it a little bit better.
Yep.
Is just super, super valuable.
Yeah. Like creating your own podcast studio.
Seriously. Right.
It's like,
Now when someone asks you, they're
well, yeah, now I know how to do it, but yeah, it's like, and you asked me before we sat down, like, oh, do you have people help with editing and stuff? And it's like, eventually, but I got to do it myself so that I can understand what they're going through.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I think
you're like, when are you going to come out with that podcast? Why isn't it not out yet?
Right,
And you're like,
I gave it to you an hour ago.
Yeah.
How long is it going to take? It's like, it's going to take like 2 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think, whatever it is, especially within this business, if you're giving advice on it or teaching other people how to do it, you need to kind of experience it yourself first,
Totally.
I think, or at some point. So, well, that's good information. What other tips or strategies should people consider when trying to hone in on their niche?
Yeah, I think casting a lot of things at the beginning is important because you really don't know what you're interested in until you actually start doing things.
It's true.
I never picked up a hammer probably until I was 24 years old and I had a house.
Yeah.
Like couldn't hang up a picture. I was like, I don't know if I'm interested in this, but this seems like fun. I'm going to try it,
Yeah.
Social media, I mentioned that before. That could be it's a super similar thing, right? Like you might think like, I don't like being in front of a camera, and then you do it a couple times and you get some feedback, and then all of a sudden you start getting some clients or some stuff starts happening, and maybe that's going to be your thing,
I'm sure you see that happen all the time with social media, like with your team members and stuff.
all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
That's one big thing I'd say to anybody listening, like just try it and like go all in for like a month or two and just like be consistent. And it's amazing. Like people like it. You know what I mean? Like, and I know people, you kind of feel uncomfortable or you don't look good that day or whatever. Nobody cares.
No.
We're going to see your face for like 3 seconds, then we're moving on because their attention span is awful.
Is nothing. Yeah, exactly.
So like anybody's even still listening to this podcast, like you have an attention span more than most people.
Why are we clipping this video 30 times, right? So
Right.
people can see short clips of what's going on, right?
Right.
So, and I mean, never in my wildest dreams did I think I could probably build my own house now, right? Like that's crazy. But the other advice I'd give is it doesn't happen overnight. That's the biggest thing. I talked about it in my team meeting this week. I'm listening to a book called The Wealthy Gardener right now. It's a fun book. One of the big things that he talks about is that concept. And I've tried so hard to make people understand that in so many different ways. The analogy he gives is you should break up your business or your career into 5-year crusades.
Okay.
And I'm like, he's like, a crusade is like a mission that you're going to go on, right? And it's not going to happen in the first month. It's not going to happen in the first quarter, the first year. It's going to take 5 years before you actually see like, I'm an expert, I'm really good at this thing or whatever. And his analogy was an oak tree grows 2 feet a year. So if you plant an oak tree and you water it and the sun hits it and you keep watering it, and then a year later it's going to be 2 feet taller. It's like this much, right? You'll look at it and be like, yeah, it probably grew a little bit. But if you went in 5 years, it'd be 10 feet taller, which is, almost twice the height of us, right? Yeah. So you'd look at it, you'd be like, wow, that thing became something special. It takes time for these things to grow.
Right.
I didn't learn how to do a 1,700 square foot addition on my house right after I sanded that lead paint and inhaled it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I did this project. I did a little bigger project. I did a little bigger project. I did new construction with clients, which, by the way, when I do that, I'm like there and I'm a part of it and I'm looking at how they're framing the house. You know, I've been thirsty for the knowledge of knowing how to be better and be more knowledgeable on all these things for 10 years to get to the point where I am now.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. A lot of people think this business is instant gratification, and a part of it could be, right? You could sit down first day, get an internet lead that calls you, and they want to see a house, and you sell it. But that doesn't mean.
But now what?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you know how to do real estate.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you can create your own business, and so like that's different. That's just like fruits of being in a good environment, right? But that's not being a real estate agent. Being a real estate agent is showing up every day and putting in the work to do a 100-point day, right? To get your task done, versus selling houses. It's like I always tell my team, it's like, what's a realtor's job? And they're like, you know, I said it too. I was wrong. I was like, oh, help people buy and sell houses, you know? And I'm like, nope, your job is to find the next lead.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do your job, you're going to be out of business, right? So how are you going to do that? And for you, it was diving deep on understanding homes and the money side of it, which is mainly why people need us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so sometimes people get really deep into certain things that maybe aren't serving their best purposes, you know, or they're going to grow their business. Like social media can kind of get into this black hole sometimes, where it's like, yeah, but my reel got like 5,000 views. I'm like, well, how many houses have you sold?
Yeah.
You know, like
you need people to be reaching out to you. It's a funny story because when I first, the first agent I ever hired, it did not go well. It kind of fell flat on its face within like 3 months. And she, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have anybody, you know, really explaining to me how to start a team, how to run a team, how to train an agent, whatever.
Right. Join the club.
Yeah. So I was like, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to learn how to write a purchase agreement, and we're going to train on that. And then you're going to know how to use a CRM. And by the 3 months were over, she could have read you the whole purchase agreement. But she had 0 clients because I didn't teach her the part that you're talking about, which is you got to go meet with people and like get leads. You need to actually have clients in order to sell houses.
Yeah.
You could be the very best at all the things, but until you have a consumer walk in the door and need your assistance, you're making $0 and you're going to be out of the industry and going to back whatever you else were doing before.
Right. So like we're talking about diving deep into your niche, right? But like, how do you balance that of like diving deep but not getting lost in it, and maybe not going so deep into things that aren't going to actually help you? You know what I mean? Like, what if somebody was like, well, my niche is going to be, I'm going to understand every single line in the purchase agreement better than anyone else. I'll be able to recite it without even looking at it. You know, like, I think there's a value there, but is it something that, like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, and I think I just happen to have a brain that is always going on to the next thing, which I know not everybody has that, but I also write down literally everything I'm doing. Everything's on my calendar. Everything's in my tasks. So I don't really have to think about what I'm doing next now. While at the beginning, when I was just getting into it, I had to think about things to do, right? Like I mentioned to you, what do you do when you have nothing to do, right? Like that's something really, really important, I think, for new agents.
Yeah.
And you have to be creative with how you're spending your time in order to get those new leads, right?
Right.
My brother's a great example because I trained him on this because I did this when my first ever listing, I was on Craigslist and I was typing emails to people saying, if I found you a buyer, would you pay a commission, right? Yeah. I had no idea what was going to happen. Like, I'm just like, well, I got an hour right now. There's 25 listings I see here in Minneapolis. Yeah. I happen to be sitting in Minneapolis. Yeah. Well, would you pay a buyer's agent commission? One of them responds, well, yes, but not more than 5%. And I responded, I'll do the whole kit and caboodle for 6 if you want. Yeah. Her husband responds, bring the contract to this address. And
no way.
Literally.
That's amazing.
Absolutely insane. So like, that's my first 2 listings. That's one of them. The other one that sold right after that was a guy that I met through Chanhassen coaching baseball. And this is just like my craziest real estate story. Would have been December. I got in real estate in October, and we had become really close friends. He was like he passed away last year. He's one of the coolest guys in the world. And we literally only knew each other for maybe 3 months, but we got really close. We would meet every week. He had a ton of money, and everybody's like, you got to meet him. He'll probably be a good donor for the program, whatever. Well, by the end of like the 2 months, I was like, I don't have a pitching coach, John. Do you want to be the pitching coach for Chanhassen? He's like, oh my gosh, that'd be the greatest thing. He like worked for a couple hours a day. He was kind of a stock guy.
Yeah.
And he calls me one December. He's like, we got to sit down. We have to talk. This is right around when I'm getting this $100,000 condo listing in Minneapolis, right?
One from Craigslist.
Yes, exactly. And he's like, all right, here's the deal. I was feeling really sick. His mom had just passed away. I was feeling really sick. My mom was passing away. I have stage 4 lung cancer. And I was like, oh, dude, that's terrible. And he had told me about his house he owned that his mom had lived in that he bought for. You know that house that my mom lived in that I have for sale with my cousin? I'd like to cancel it and list it with you.
Oh my gosh.
And you know what I said? I've never listed a house before.
I don't know how to do that.
I've never done that. But he said, God puts people in my life for a reason. And I really want you to do it. And we sold it in like 45 days. It was really freaking crazy. $1.6 million.
Wow.
I think it was still my most expensive listing of all time.
Yeah.
But that happened just because of motion, right?
Right.
Like I didn't meet with him for him to give me that listing, right? But he got to know me and we started becoming close. And then all of a sudden it's like he has a real estate need and then he reaches out to me, right? And in all these situations, that's kind of how things have unfolded. And it's what to do when you have nothing to do. Luke did the same thing. He went on Craigslist. He went on expireds and canceled. His first 3 listings were expired or canceled listings within 2 months of being in real estate.
Wow.
Right? And people aren't willing to do it anymore.
No, I know.
It's hard work. It sucks. The clients are terrible most of the time, right? Mean. They're very hard.
Yep.
But he got them. He sold them. He sold 20 houses his first year as a 22-year-old.
Yeah. It's incredible.
So,
did you actually respond back to them saying, I can do the whole kit and caboodle?
I think I might have.
That's what got it done.
The guy was the best, too. He was like a caricature. He showed up with like full suit. He was an attorney.
Yeah.
And he had like this awesome scarf on and like a fedora. Yes. And it was his brother had died and it was his condo and he was helping to sell it. It was phenomenal. And we sold that too.
You know, you should have responded with, I can cover all the bases.
Cover all the bases and lead you home.
God, our slogans are so good. Well, I mean, there's a lot of good to take away from all that. I think that I really like the niche thing for sure. Like figure out what you're passionate about and just go for it.
But don't spend all of your time doing it. Right. That's what I was going to say. Like you said, I can learn the PA of backwards and forwards, whatever. It's like, okay, well, why don't you spend 1 hour per day on that?
Right.
It will take you, let's say it takes you 30 hours to really be good at it. That's 30 working days.
Well, because it's like you said, it's a 5-year, what was the word you used?
5-year crusade.
Crusade. It's a 5-year crusade. It doesn't have to all be done today.
Exactly.
But make it part of your plan. And I guess, I don't know what you would say about this. My advice is, let's say it's I think understanding how a house is built and all that stuff, like that's more like a lifelong learning process, right? But let's say it's something like, I'm going to go deep on expireds or for sale by owners, right? In my opinion, if you do it every day, let's say for like an hour, for like 3 months, and it's not working, I think you've tried long enough, in my opinion.
Yes.
Right? Like, don't lose yourself in it. Like, don't go down with the ship. If it's not working, pivot. But then I think it's pivoting to what you've said a few times, where having that list of what to do when you have nothing to do is literally like, it's genius. And I've done that in my career too. I haven't ever phrased it that way. But it's like having those plan A, B, C, D, all the way to Z when you're like sitting in the office or sitting at your house and you're supposed to be working and you're just like, I don't really have any clients right now. I did my FSBO expired calls for the day and I'm going to go binge watch.
Netflix.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, you have another 4 hours, bucko.
Right. Well, I mean, it's that Brent Gove line. I don't know if you've ever heard it before, but I wrote it on our whiteboard. It sits up there forever now at our office. And he says, it's not magic, it's motion.
I love that.
It's not magic, it's motion, right? Like that is, if you could boil down real estate, that's literally what it is. So it's like, you don't stop when you've got 4 hours left in your day. You're going to figure out something to do because it's not magic. It's just motion. If you just keep moving, you're going to find what you need to be doing, but you own your own business. So you've got to drive yourself and figure out what you're going to be doing.
Right. Love it. Well, let's pivot to a few other questions that I have for you because I think these are also really relevant, and I just like to unpack the minds of top producers a little bit, so that if anything, I can learn a few things. You know?
Sure.
For everybody else listening or watching, if you learn something, great. But this is for me. So I wrote down, what is a hack, routine, or habit in your personal life that you value most that has significantly improved your life? This could be relationship based. This could be with your kids. This could be whatever.
I would say career-wise and relationship-wise, waking up before everybody else wakes up has been a huge deal for me.
Like everybody in your household, like you're the first one up.
And the world most of the time.
What time do you get up?
About 5:15. I can accomplish in those first 30 minutes what most people accomplished in a scattered world in 4 hours.
I know.
So I can get through half my tasks, get my emails completely organized, have my day and my schedule all planned out for me. Before, I usually go to the gym like 3 times a week. So before I go to the gym or before my kids get up at, 6:45, I've already gotten so much done at the beginning of the day. I found that my headspace, as I've gotten older, I don't know if you've learned this too, but by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I try not even to have meetings anymore, to be honest, because I'm just not as good or as sharp as I probably was 10 years ago.
Right.
I like to say I'm old. People who are older than me give me crap for that, but that's
how
I feel.
How old are you now?
34.
Yeah, so I'm 37. So I'm gonna give you crap. Listen here, Sonny Jim.
But seriously, I can sense that I just don't have as much energy, or as I can't commit as much time in a day as I used to be able to.
It's what my dad always would say that to me too. It would be like, I don't know, I'd be talking about how I was going to take over the world, or some stupid whatever, I can do all this, and he's just like, there's going to come a point in your life and career you're not going to want to work as hard, or you can't work as hard. And I think he was alluding to like what you're getting to. It's like, it's not that you're not as good, but you're just like, I don't know, you're onto something else in your mind, whether you're trying to control it or not. You know what I mean? Like, you just want to like be with the family, or you want to, I don't know,
slow down, do something different. And that's, again, another one in my book that he says, and it's a quote that you've probably heard before, but if you have to eat a frog, you should eat it right away.
I told my wife that literally this morning.
There we go.
I always say it because she didn't understand the analogy. So I'm like, do the hardest thing first.
Yep.
Right. And so today she's like, I have so many things to do, and then she starts like cleaning the house. I'm like, stop cleaning.
That's very easy. You can
I'll
do that.
do that. Yeah. Like, I can do that.
I'm around. Yeah.
Do the thing that I can't do. That has to be done between the business hours when I'm at work. I can't help you with that. Like, if it's bank stuff or whatever,
yes,
you got to do it.
Yep.
So yeah, that right there is incredible advice. Like, eat the frog.
Eat the frog. Just first thing in the morning. And whenever you're needing to do stuff where your headspace is really required, the first thing in the morning, at least for me, is the easiest time to do it.
So when you get out of bed, are you like immediately energetic, or what is your like? Do you have to get a cup of coffee? Like, what do you do to kind of like get to the point where you're now in front of your computer and you can like?
It takes me a few minutes. Yeah, I usually get the coffee going, and
like, alarm goes off, you just sit up and you're out of bed.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're like a psycho.
I'm a psycho. Yes, exactly. Well, that's my second phone doesn't have anything fun on it. That's the phone next to my bed. So I couldn't like wake up and go on Facebook. It's not there.
So you don't have social media on your second phone?
No.
I love that.
Yeah.
Freaking love that.
Yeah.
Maybe the second phone is in my future. I actually currently own 2 phones. We're switching to T-Mobile. So
I need to do that.
Yeah, I have 2 phones right now, and I'm like, even my wife was like, maybe we just have both of them.
Roll with the 2 phones.
We'll see. I'll just I'll keep one with Verizon and one with T-Mobile and just see which one has the best service for like the next year.
Oh.
So, okay, getting up before everybody else and just tackling everything before people can even like reply back to you.
They can't reply back. That's the most important thing, I think. And I think most people don't realize how distracting it is that people can always get a hold of you. So if you're up before everybody else and they can't get a hold of you, you're just getting a hold of them, and they've got to react to what you said, right? Yep. So that's why I do it.
I love it. I one day will be a morning person. I'm more of I do a lot of that stuff after hours.
See, so you could do it at night too, and that's the thing. And people, it's the same concept. If you were to text me at 10 o'clock at night, I mean, honestly, if you text me at 8 o'clock at night, I probably won't even see it.
No.
But you can get all that stuff done, and then when I wake up at 5, I can get back to you.
Right. So like, that's what I always say. People always talk like morning routines. I'm always like, it doesn't matter if it's morning or evening, in my opinion. It's just you need that time where no one is replying to you.
Yes.
Like that is important.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I think morning is ultimately best is obviously you can loop in a workout with that. You can kind of set your day up and help out your family and like get things prepared for your wife and kids and stuff like that. So like morning's best, but I'm just saying like if you're not a morning person, don't let that hold you back. You can do it in the
9 o'clock at night. Yeah.
9,
totally.
10, 11, ain't
Yeah.
nobody replying to you.
Totally.
And if they do, then they're probably the people you want to hang out with anyways. Like,
Exactly.
that's good,
Your kind of people.
Okay. Another one I wrote down, and maybe we already covered this, but best advice you've ever been given.
I was going to touch on it, but I wanted to wait till you asked the question.
Okay.
So in college, the head coach at the U baseball was John Anderson. We call him 14. It's his number. And he literally probably said this 1,000 times while I was there, is trust the process. He would say, trust the process over and over and over and over. You'd hit a line drive and get out. He'd be like, it's okay, trust the process. And you're like, I want to strangle you right now, but I understand, right? But so much of our lives, almost all of our lives, to be honest, are outside of our control, right? What happens to you? You could get hit by a bus tomorrow. Your kid could get cancer. Like so many things, you want to have control over it. And as human beings, we're designed to try to control what's going on, and we just really can't.
Especially as men.
Yes, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And what we can control is what we do with our time on a daily basis. And you kind of alluded to it, right? Which is if you have a process by which you do your day, 100-point day, I've done that with my team before too. Yep. You might not sell a single thing in that day, right? You probably won't. No, because you're not selling 365 homes a year.
No.
Right?
Odds are you're selling, I mean, what would it be? If you're selling like 20 houses, 30 houses, you're selling one house every
other week.
2 weeks.
Yeah. So I did a similar thing. And the things he taught me in college, I said this yesterday at our team meeting because I have 2 Gopher baseball players on my team, my brother and another guy we just brought on. That advice and the way that he taught me about life just is monumentally changed how I think about real estate as a business. So back when I was trying to sell 50 homes a year, so like my 3rd year, I sold 50 homes a year for the first time. And I made a weekly checklist of the things I needed to do in a week to sell 50 homes a year. And the only results-oriented part of it was sell a house, and I would write their name, and meet a new buyer or seller, and I'd write their name. And the rest of it was all process-driven. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, what am I going to read that's going to make me more knowledgeable about something? What's a long-term project I'm working on? Who are 3 people in my network that I need to meet with? Did I follow up with all my current clients? Like these kinds of things. And I would, whenever I felt like I was kind of off the rails, because most of the time I just did it, right? But sometimes I'd be like, I've been a little slower lately. I haven't sold anything in 3-4 weeks, whatever, right? I'd print it out and I'd put it down and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to do all the stuff this week. And it just gets me back on track to, okay, this is what my day should look like. But it's all process driven because we just don't have control. But you can control what you do with your time.
Absolutely. I think that's even better advice than the initial stuff we were talking about. I mean, just literally put a task list together and just freaking do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. And I actually shared a video with my team this morning, and it was essentially the same thing. It was basically talking about like you're gonna, when you get in the industry, like you are signing up to fail, right? Like real estate is just literally failing 90% of the time. You know what I mean? Like you're not selling a house every day, like we said. So you're not achieving your goal, right? And it's like, but if you look at it the other way of like just focus on the tasks, focus on the things that you know are going to lead to a sale. Don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about the money or the units or the glory or whatever, the ego shit. Like just freaking print out a 10-point list and just do it every day.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that list will probably take you 5-6 hours. If you
did a full day pretty much, right?
And then hopefully that's leading to appointments, which will fill up the next couple hours, and that's real estate, you know. But I don't know why people don't understand.
See, but lucky for me, in 2013, I was in AA in New Britain, Connecticut. Played in front of 5,000 to 10,000 fans a night. 120 at bats, 18 hits. I think 1 double.
Hell yes.
Yes, 150.
So you've been failing for a long time.
A long time, right? Like I had that experience. I mean, it's funny, but like that experience of doing that, I was failing. Like think about if your best friend told you they weren't going to work with you, but there was 10,000 people watching. How would that feel?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, I did that. It's 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts, and people are yelling at me.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're a bum. How many times
You're
have you called a bum?
all the time.
All the time.
I got called the bat boy all the time because I'm short. I mean, like, think about it, like, and I was like, I got hard skin from that, and I realized, okay, well, if I'm gonna make this work, I'm gonna have to do something different in my daily process.
Yeah.
To do better, right?
Yep.
And that's so easily translated into real estate.
It's easy to get romantic about baseball.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like numbers and like and failing and stuff. Like honestly, like what was the average for the leader last year for batting average?
350.
350.
The league average this year was like 248 or something like that.
Right. So
1 out of 4.
The top was 3.5 times
Out of 10.
Out of 10 or whatever. They got
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer.
Right?
Yeah, that's the thing. The Hall of Famer is
Yeah.
you actually succeed 3 out of 10 times.
Yep.
It's like that's basically real estate.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's
the guy that gets there, you can go watch him before the game starts.
Yeah.
That's when you see how that guy is 100 points higher than the average.
You're right. Yeah.
Right? That's the difference. Come to my house at 5 a.m. and you'll see how I sell more houses than a lot of people because I'm preparing my day in the right way.
Well, and also go watch them 5 years ago in the minors.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't hitting 350.
No.
Right?
Right.
It's a freaking process.
It's a big process.
It takes a
yes.
while. What's the one thing people thinking about getting in the industry need to know that maybe we didn't cover?
Oof, this is a good one. So I think so many people, again, you talked about romantic. People get very romantic about real estate.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really sexy topic. People watch TV shows where people are doing remodeling or they're, $1 million listing, like
Right.
all these kinds of shows, right? People think that's how it looks.
Yeah.
Or they go on social media and they see me and you going, oh, we sold another 5 houses,
Right.
because we're not
They see
necessarily
the
on
highlight
there.
reel.
Yeah, we're not on there going, my buyer just backed out of inspection because they're being a doof, right? you don't post about that.
wasted 5 days with pursuing this person, and then they literally listed with somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. You don't see that stuff,
We should
right?
start posting that.
We should. All the
Like,
bad
just do the
crap,
anti.
the worst.
Yeah.
But I think so many people get into it thinking that's how it is. And I think the advice I would give them is, and I tell this to new agents, if you want to be uber successful in real estate, 50 to 60 hours a week for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you can give me 50 to 60 hours a week for 5 years, I can make you make $250,000 a year.
You
I
can
just
change
almost can,
your life.
I can guarantee it. But most people aren't willing to do that
No.
or willing to listen to that.
No.
Right? They will shudder away at the first sign of fear, right? Maybe, they're low on cash and they're not sure where their next deal's coming from, whatever that is. And some people have more luxuries in financial situations than others.
Yeah.
Like my wife was a nurse when I started in real estate, so I didn't have to worry about making
Mine
money.
too.
There we go, right?
There we go.
So I had the luxury of having that like little leeway of getting going.
They can pay for our life, worst case scenario.
Exactly.
They
And some
afford to
people
pay
some
the
people
bills.
don't have that, right? And it's
Right.
scary to own a business where you eat what you kill.
Right.
Exactly, right? So I just think so many people get into it thinking this is going to be easier. I'm going to do whatever. Or I'm going to do it part-time or
Yeah.
whatever that is. 50 to 60 hours a week for 5 years and you will be extremely successful.
But my team has internet leads, AJ. I don't need to hunt.
Yeah, go sell
They
25 of those and
They
sell
just
20.
limp. The dead like ill animal just limps up to my door and falls.
Yeah.
Isn't it that easy? Like I just get a team that has all these leads, and then I'm going to be a millionaire.
Yeah, you're going
Right?
to get exhausted on the internet leads. I can promise you that.
That, and you're not going to know how to actually run a business because that's not reality.
No, you're just a
There are
chicken
some
chicken with
teams-
your head cut off.
Yeah, there are some teams that provide leads, but then when you have to go find your own, like I talk to people all the time on big teams, and they'll think about they're unhappy, the culture isn't good, whatever, and I'm like, okay, cool, like yeah, we could probably make this work. Like, what's your business ratio? Like, how much is personal? How much is team? And these are people selling like 60 houses a year, like big fish, and they'll be like, they're all team.
All team.
I'm like, all of them? Like, you didn't get a referral? They're like, no, we don't really do that. We just like get the lead and then we close it and we move on. And I'm like, you can't leave. Don't leave.
Don't leave.
Stay there.
Learn how to talk to your
Yeah.
past clients.
Yeah,
and
my
then we
goodness.
then we can talk.
I'm like, if you leave, I can't get you 60 leads or 60 closings from team deals.
That's incredible. Yeah.
But like, it's shocking to me how people just don't understand what this business is actually about.
But I think, and I talk to this all the time, in a world where I can snap my finger.
In a world
where I can snap my finger and a t-shirt arrives at my door in 4 hours.
Right.
That's how people think about the world.
Is your t-shirt going to say freak in the spreadsheet?
Yes, it will. But I get that in 4 hours right now.
Absolutely.
I can have by the time I get home. But it's crazy, right? Like that's how the world works. So a lot of people think that's how business is. Like the lead comes in and I just go close it and then I go on to the next one, right?
Right.
It's like, well, you don't see how the top producers get to the point where I got a lead yesterday. Get this. I have a listing presentation tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
She emailed me, said, my father is very old and needs to sell his house. I have no idea who this person is.
Yeah.
I thought it was a scam. So I looked it up. I'm like, it's not a scam. This is a real person. This guy really owns this house. I said, I'm just curious. How did you get my information? I went on realestate.news.com and found your name. And I was like, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Never even heard of that website.
Either have I. And I'm like, I'm not even on. I didn't pay for anything to be. It's just some website that pulls in information from other websites.
Yeah.
But this stuff doesn't happen if you're not focused on creating a business where your name's just out there.
Right.
Right? People are just reaching out because they need help and they found top agent in some random place because you've sold a lot of houses.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I think we could go through our Rolodex or past transactions of people and be like, okay, we closed it at this time, but like, when did that relationship start? How did you meet them? Whatever. And like, for me, almost all of them would be like, oh, it's like 3 years in the making, 2 years in the making. Like, oh, that was a referral from somebody I met 8 years ago.
Yeah, or that was a referral from a referral from a referral from a referral of past client. I'm like, I don't even know how I got to this point. I think that was like my really good buddy Jimmy, and then Jimmy referred me to Tommy, and Tommy referred me to Sarah, and Sarah referred me to Charlie. I don't know how we got here, but I think that's what happened. You know,
I know.
You just lose track of it.
I know.
But if you're focused on the process and getting your niche and being knowledgeable, people can tell, right? They do a real estate transaction with you, and they're like, this guy knew exactly what the market was like. He knew exactly what to talk about in the house.
Yeah.
You need to call this guy.
Right.
And then the next person, same thing happens.
Same thing.
And then the next person. And it's just such an easier way to do business.
Yeah.
Because internet leads are great for the short term. We have lots of them, but they're finicky. They've never met you. They're not going to trust you.
Right.
Right?
You got to work a lot harder, in my opinion, for
A
those.
lot harder.
You have to like know. You have to know the right things to say to these people. So you almost like, you can be yourself, but you have to also like, you got to play that part that they need.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you, with your sphere or people that know you in your life, you can just be yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Last question before the lightning round. I wrote down, what does the future hold for you, your 5-year crusade?
Oh, I love that because I when I gave that thought to my team, I had something in my head. My goal, honestly, is to sell less homes each year over the next 5 years. Notably, I've been focused on the percentage of transactions I do versus the team. So that number has gone down quite a bit over the last 3 or 4 years.
Who would have thought, like 10 years ago, little AJ getting in the industry, I need to figure out a way to get out of the business. So stop selling houses.
I mean, seriously, though, it's kind of funny.
That's never in anybody's, when they first start, what's your 5-year plan? I'm going to sell a shit ton of houses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like, well, in like 10 years, I'm probably going to like want to stop.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And like, so like I mean, the bummer is I've gotten really, really good at showing houses.
I know.
But I have 3 little kids. And so I'm like, I can't just be buyer's agent forever, you know? So one year in 2020, I sold 45 buyers, which to me was absolutely bananas, running all over the place all the time. And I realized I just can't sustainably do that forever. I mentioned I don't have the energy for it necessarily. So I've been working with less clients and more pointed about, closer to my area, close friends, all that kind of stuff. Not that, I'm shying away from people, but I also have some fantastic real estate agents on my team that I can connect with people in my network to work with.
And I would say, and I say this to my clients sometimes, I'm like, hey, this team member is actually better for you right now.
They have more time
than me.
Yeah.
For these reasons, like you said, I got a family. Like if you want me to show you a house, I will, but it might be in a week.
Right. It's not gonna be at 7:30.
And I'm not saying it as like I'm so important. It's like, no, I don't wake up every day anymore to work and sell houses. Like there's more to it. You know what I mean? And so that's where you do have to have a good team behind you, I think, if you ever want to get to that point where you can just be like, hey, I'm honestly like, this person over here is better than me right now. Like
seriously,
like they can they got it under control. If you want to go see these 3 houses today, they got you.
They're great.
If you need me, I understand that, but it's going to be in like 4 days.
Right.
These houses might be sold.
Right. No, it's the truth. And I've said that I'm slowly transitioning from the consumer being my client to the agent being my client.
Yeah.
So I'm able to spend so much more time pouring into the agents and teaching them how to really build a really good, real estate business.
Yeah.
And I've built this awesome staff with all these systems around me that allows for that to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, over time, in the next 5 years, I'm transitioning into more leaders on my team being brought up and contributing, and not just my voice being the only voice. I found culturally that's like been massive for us. And my percentage of the team sales just continue to go down.
Yeah. Well, and that means just more time with the family, and that's time you're not going to get back. I mean, my kids are 8 and 10. I think about that. I'm like, that's nuts, dude.
Halfway there.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you ever? I'm trying to remember the name of it, but there's like a dad's thing online that you can subscribe to. It's like this group. I don't know. There's a bunch of people in it, but
Is it Fatherly?
I don't know.
That's a good one.
I don't know. But there was something on there, and it was like this chart, and it was like, here's how many days you have left with your kids, right? And it was like, when they're a baby, there's a ton. But then it's like by 10, it's like, I don't know what it was. Let's just call it 2,000 days left or something.
It's about right.
I don't know. Something like that. And you're just like, what?
You're like, dang.
But like,
That doesn't
honestly,
like that
and then you look at like what 16, 15 is, and you're just like, dude, that's like not enough.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's where it's just I think it's a great industry to get into in your like 20s, so that you can build something great. To then when you're at that point where you need to spend time with the kids because they're in those formative years, you have the ability to. If you're just out there working your ass off and not trying to build something so that you can kind of maybe exit, and you have a family, like, reach out, because like
Totally.
there's a different way to do this business, and it doesn't have to be where you're sacrificing your family life or your relationship with your spouse every day. Like, there's money's
And like I said,
not everything.
if you front load your time to the beginning of your career,
Right.
you can really get a good base where it's not as hard for you going forward.
Right. All right. Well, let's get into the overrated, underrated questions, and then we'll wrap it up. So for those of you still listening or watching, thank you. Hope you got something out of that. But now we have some questions. Some of them are related to real estate, and some of them are related to life.
Great.
But so I'm going to give you a word or a phrase, and then you're just going to hit me with the overrated, underrated, and you could talk about why.
Okay.
So let's go with the first one. Near and dear to your heart, Minnesota Twins.
Underrated, probably,
Underrated?
because we all think they're always going to lose.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I
We're just expecting it.
I honestly, I feel good about the core. Like, the core's
I
great.
mean, they got a lot of guys coming back. I think it's going to be a good year next year.
The pitching staff seem to. I mean, I love our closer. I don't know enough about like the stats. Is he like one of the best in the league?
He threw the 3 hardest pitches in baseball
Right,
this year.
like 102, 103,
105.
105 he hit.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Every time he comes out, I'm just like, I don't know how good this guy is, but he looks really good.
Yeah, the best pitch is that splinker.
Yeah, the splinker. What's a
He
splinker?
calls it a split sinker. I think he holds it like this,
Yeah.
which is like a Spock grip.
Yeah.
It's called a Vulcan
Star
split.
Trek.
And he throws it 99 miles an hour, and it dives at the last
It
second.
just like at the last second hits.
And for those listening, 99 miles an hour, just so you understand, it happens really fast. And 100 miles an hour is really loud. The ball.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
and it's coming at
I
you.
was actually going to ask you, so someone who played, major and minor league baseball, like, what is the hardest part about baseball? Just hitting, like, let's ask it this way: what's the hardest pitch to hit?
I would say a really, really hard slider, probably.
And a slider goes from, is it outside to inside?
Usually it would go inside to outside to me
Inside
with
to
a
outside.
with a righty. A lefty would come in, but more often than not, the righty.
So when a
match.
slider starts, does it look like it's going to hit you?
Sometimes. My neighbor was talking about this today. He said, how do you know when they're throwing different pitches?
Yeah.
And I said, well, it depends on the pitch. A slider, typically, you'll see, this is crazy to try to think about, but like when the guy's throwing 85 miles an hour. So think about driving 85 miles an hour, how fast that is.
Yeah.
When you can see a little small red dot on the ball, that would indicate that it's a slider just because of how that ball gets held and how it spins.
Yeah.
Whereas a fastball will typically, a four seam will be white.
Yep.
And a two seam will have two red lines in the middle.
And what's the difference between a two seam and a four seam?
It's just how they hold the ball. So you hold across the horseshoe for a four seam and on the horseshoe for a two seam.
Okay.
So the ball rotates 4 times on a four seam and it just has two
So a four seam faster just from the rotation.
Two seam typically has a little more movement to it.
Yep.
Depending on how you hold it. But that's how you know what the pitch is, which is crazy. And that's why I said nowadays a lot of guys are throwing really hard fastballs high in the zone. This is like a new thing that's evolved. And then they're throwing really hard curveballs that have a lot of 12 to 6 action. So they call it like a 12-6 curveball. So start at the top, come down. The problem with that is if you don't see that the pitcher is holding the ball on the side of the ball when he releases it, you will literally think it's a fastball because the spin rotates on a four-seam rotation the other direction.
Oh, okay.
So a four-seam rotation is running like this.
Yeah.
And a curveball would be coming the exact opposite direction to go down.
Yeah.
So you'll just like swing like it's a fastball because they're throwing everything at the top of the zone.
Yeah.
So the ball kind of pops out of their hand the same way, and then it just has completely different action on it.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. I mean,
It is crazy.
Whenever people get mad at hitters for not hitting the ball, I'm always like, oh man, if
Don't
you
even
just
know.
knew when you were up there.
Well, like I stopped playing baseball like in I think 9th or 10th grade because dude threw a curveball. Like it was looking like it was at my face.
Yeah.
And it went over the middle, and I was like, I'm done.
Okay. I'm done.
Because I was so nervous about getting hit.
Yeah.
You know, I was just, and you got hit, right?
I got hit in the face my
got hit.
second game of pro ball.
And it was
bad.
ball?
Oh yeah. He was set up outside. I was ready for the one that was outside. And it was
So the catcher, you could see the catcher was set up outside.
Oh yeah, I could sense it. And he was trying. I watched the video. He was trying to throw it there and it came up, 3 feet from where it was supposed to go.
And it hit you where?
In the nose.
In the nose, yeah.
Yeah. This is my
That's why he said a face for radio.
3rd surgery. Exactly.
No, yeah, that I remember you telling me that story, and it's just nuts.
Brutal.
But okay, so Twins are underrated.
I'd say
Big
so.
things planned for the Twins in the future, it sounds
Yes.
like.
Yep.
All right, Minnesota sports in general.
I mean, in Minnesota, we're underrated.
Yeah,
Everybody thinks we're going to lose.
I know.
It's the worst.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins throws one bad pass. Worst quarterback I've ever seen. I'm just like, shut up.
Go watch a different team.
Shut up.
Go
You
watch 20 of the teams.
Right.
Their
Kirk
quarterbacks
Cousins
are
is
horrible.
so good.
He's so good.
And people just pile on him all the time, and I'm just like, you guys don't like. And I'm not gonna act like I played professional football, but that was my sport.
You played college football.
I was on the team.
Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah,
you're
I was
on
on
the
the team. But I like when I watch football, it's probably kind of like you watching baseball. Obviously, you're at a little bit higher level, but like I'll see stuff, and like people will just go nuts about like someone just sucking, or I'm just like, no. That's not,
he'll
like,
look off a safety and make a perfect pass, and you're like, oh my
yeah,
gosh.
or you can tell like the problem isn't Kirk that play. It was a lineman, or it was just something right that, or it was a really good defensive play, and it's just like, yeah, there's all-star athletes on the other side too.
Did you watch quarterback?
Yes.
The only thing that made me so sad, Josh said it yesterday, my brother. He's like, Kirk Cousins is the most Minnesota athlete of all time.
is.
He's so nice and so awesome. Emily was watching me and she goes, his wife's name would be Julie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, he's so nice. And she's so nice, too. She puts out his clothes for him for the press. They're just awesome, awesome people.
Well, and they're into like, religion. And
Oh,
stuff like
yeah.
that. Like my wife is a big like Christian, and she really liked that about Kirk. So now
He's great.
it's funny, like she's never mad at Kirk.
It's not Kirk's fault. He's a good guy. He's trying his best.
He's the best.
But then you watch Patrick Mahomes, high ankle sprain in the first game of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he's mother effing his coach to don't take me out of this game.
Yeah.
You cannot. It took him 5 minutes to get him to go take an X-ray.
Right.
And then he hobbles back out and wins the game and wins the Super Bowl. And you're like, this is why we can't have nice things.
This is exactly why we can't have nice things. Yeah, no, I'm optimistic always about Minnesota sports. I think that's the thing. Actually, on the back of my phone right now, it says optimistic.
I gave my dad that shirt.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a Vikings logo. It says optimistic since 1961. And that's me about like all Minnesota sports every time. I don't know why I fall for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You
So I'm
always
like the opposite. Like people are like, we're going to lose. I'm like, no, we're going to.
We do have
This is our
We
year.
do have Michael Jordan on our basketball team, so it's going to be very fun to watch this year.
Do we actually have a guy named Michael Jordan?
He's pretty much Michael Jordan.
Anthony
Anthony
Ant. Yeah.
Edwards.
Ant is incredible. I saw a highlight of him like last week just doing some crazy shit, turn around, did a fadeaway.
He could be the MVP this year.
Yeah.
And he's 23 years old, I think.
I know. Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
But we have Cat, and I don't. Yeah.
And Gobert.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We'll see. Investment properties.
Ooh, crazy underrated.
Crazy underrated, right?
Yeah.
It's literally like one of the most important things I think that anybody should be trying to focus on.
I talk about rich people versus wealthy people all the time.
Yes.
Rich people spend their money and wealthy people have a lot of money. Most wealthy people I know own at least some large chunk of real estate.
Right. My one buddy, Brian Schulten, he said, and everybody's heard the saying, but he like embodies this. He's like, yeah, I'm cash poor, but investment heavy. Like he just, he's like, I don't have a lot in my bank account, but I also don't need anything in my bank account because all of my investment properties like fund my entire life.
Yep.
Exactly. And it's just, I think everybody on the surface understands that concept, but then like there's another level. There's many levels to it, but there's like another level of understanding of like I always used to think, why would I take $100,000 that I worked so freaking hard for and give it to somebody and get like 10 grand back?
Yeah.
Over a year. Why would I do that? And I'm like, that just seems stupid. And then you start to figure out that like, well, it's 10 grand, but it's like about $1,000 a month. So it's $1,000 a month less I don't have to come up with. And if I do that like 10 times, I don't have to like work probably.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, okay.
Yeah.
And so, but it on the surface to me, it was always like, man, that's a lot of money to like just get a little bit of return or whatever. A good return on investment right now is what, like 8 to 10%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like great, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, 10 grand on 100,000. Why
Yeah.
would I do that? But it's like, well, what else you can do with that money?
But yeah, exactly. And also, by the way, you're paying down an asset with somebody else's money.
Right.
And you are probably not paying much or any tax on the money that you're making because of how the tax code's written. So
Right.
That's been the beauty for us. We own 17 single-family homes in St. Louis Park. We have an Airbnb, which is also our cabin.
Mm-hmm.
Huge tax benefits, but also a really good amount of cash flow.
Yeah.
It's just harder to do. That's why some people don't do it. They'd rather give it to a financial advisor or buy Coca-Cola or whatever.
Right.
But again, in life, having control over certain things is kind of nice, and I get to have a lot of control over my real estate investments.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, if anybody listening wants to know more about investment property stuff, I mean, AJ is the guy I go to for
And
a lot
you
of
own
this.
property too?
I do. But, I mean, so Burr method stuff, AJ is incredible. But, yeah, if you just want like a basic knowledge on investments and stuff, both of us could help you. But AJ is doing some really awesome things. Do you own any commercial property yet?
No. I own
I have
part
that
of-
over you.
You do. I own parts of commercial real estate,
Okay.
actually. So I have in syndications. I have been in 4, exited 2, and have 2 outstanding.
I've looked in syndications. I've never pulled the trigger on one.
They're
But
beauty for taxes.
yeah. But anyway, so if need commercial investment, obviously that's me.
For sure.
I'm sure AJ could figure it out. Listing presentations.
Oof. Depending on what you're talking about, I don't know. I mean, I think that a lot of agents, especially when they get asked by a friend or like a close person at work, that they want to sell their home.
Mm-hmm.
And I was guilty of this, and I lost listings because of it. And they show up
They
not really
mail it in.
prepared, and they just kind of talk through, what are you thinking? Okay, great, I'll reach back out to you.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they're like, we have somebody else, and we're going to go with them. It's like, oh, shoot, I didn't prepare and tell them
Right.
what they need. So I would say underrated. I think every time that someone says, I want to sell a house, you need to come prepared with something,
Right.
whether it's your best friend or someone you met on realestate.news.com.
Right. The whole kit and caboodle. Just do
The
it all.
whole kit and caboodle.
I also agree with you.
Yeah.
I think especially early on, you need them 100%. I think if you do it right, by like year 4 or 5, maybe even earlier, year 3, your listing presentation kind of becomes your social media account. People, they know what to expect from it. You still need to come prepared, but I used to have to go over I chose to go over like a 49-point plan.
Yeah.
And like, you get a for sale sign and you get it.
Yeah.
Like all this stuff, because that's just what it was. And then eventually people started like literally almost dying at the table from boredom.
Yeah.
And they're like, Tyler, we know, like, can we just sign? We know what you're going to do. Like, we get it,
But you didn't take it for granted.
No. And I'm always like, I can cover all the marketing stuff that we do if you'd like me to, but I want to respect your time.
Yeah.
And I'd say 9 out of 10 times they're like, nope, we got it. But having it, right? Having it ready
Available
is important.
Yep.
Sunset photos for listings.
Oh, so underrated.
I love them.
Daniel DeRoche got me hooked on them.
Yeah.
I had a big like potential $2 million listing.
Yeah.
And I had him come and do the listing presentation. I was like, we can just co-list this together.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get it without you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he went through the sunset photos and how he described them, and we do them on nearly every listing now. The big reason why is what you talked about earlier is people's attention spans are terrible, and they scroll.
You gotta hook them.
Oh, I've been at buyer meetings and seen them like, oh, there's this one house in Hopkins, and they're like, yep, there it is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you just went so fast through those. Like, did you even see anything else?
Yeah.
And I'm like, for buyers, I say, you've got to be so much more discerning than the average consumer. Like, if the photos suck, still look at it.
Yep.
Because that might be a better opportunity for us. But on the listing side, I tell every seller, I get like 5 seconds to hook somebody.
Right.
5 seconds.
Yep.
If I don't stand out and get them to click through 10 pictures in 5 seconds,
Yep.
I've lost them.
Yep.
So we not only do the sunset photos, but we also take the 70 photos spacecrafting gives us, and we boil it down to like 20 to 25. And I get them through the house quickly.
Yep.
And if they want to click on the 3D tour, they want to click on the full photo link, we have all that available for them. But I just want to get them hooked so they reach out to their agent and book a showing. And the sunset photos are perfect for that.
Yeah, we talk about, actually it's on our marketing plan. It's called like Stop the Swipe is what we call it.
Beautiful.
And it's like we always start with a sunset photo, and then we hit them with like the top 5 to 10 features right away versus driveway, front door, foyer.
Oh gosh.
You know what I mean? Like we go, because like, dude, there's times where there is a lake in the backyard.
And you see 6 front photos first.
It's the 70th photo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is happening?
What is happening?
Because there'll be times a client will send me a house, it'll be listed at like a crazy high price, and then I start looking, I'm like, what am I missing? Like, what? I don't understand.
Oh, 200 feet of footage. Wow,
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then there's a lake, and I'm like, oh.
It's waterfront.
But they're like, when we first started, and I think these still exist, but there's websites out there that they only show you the first like 3 photos, then you have to sign in, or you have to sign up or whatever, and it's like, make sure those first 3 to 5 photos
are good.
work.
Yeah, exactly.
Podcasts.
Ooh, I like podcasts.
I know.
I say underrated for all of these, though.
That's okay.
I would say overrated in some situations here. I mean, there's too many of them.
Right. And I think podcasts in general, I'd say underrated. But then what do you do with the information, right? Like I think John Cheplack was talking about this in Vegas. And he said he was like mocking people basically who like, well, I listen to podcasts for all these things, and he's like, great, what the fuck are you doing with the information? You know what I mean? Like, and like, I think people like you, and partially like me, we can hear things and maybe implement that pretty quickly, but a lot of people, they can't, and it's like, you can't just listen.
It's a comfort just to listen to the podcast.
Right.
But they don't really have any action items.
What are you doing with it? So I'd say that part, thinking you're going to listen to a podcast and change your life is very overrated.
Yeah. Yes.
It still takes work.
It does. Exactly.
But I mean, podcasts in general are a great tool,
Yes.
I think, for whether you're doing them or listening. I mean, there's so much value there. People are just literally giving away what they do
For
every day.
free.
The Bigger Pockets podcast and
it's
stuff.
awesome.
I'm like, to think if we had this growing up, you know what I mean? Like, our kids have this incredible opportunity to live in a world where, like, there's no secret anymore.
Information. Yeah.
It's
just
everywhere.
there.
Like,
Yep.
what do you want to do with your life? Okay, let's just go do that. Las Vegas.
I would say underrated.
You think underrated?
I
I didn't know if you were going to say overrated.
I love Vegas. I love it for 2 days a year, every year.
Right, 2 to 3 days, max. Right?
Yeah, we got to the last day. So here's a funny story. We got to the last day. And everybody was pretty much gone by the time we left. We left like Thursday, midday, and Wednesday night. Most people are gone, and I was just looking around on StubHub, like, what's going on in Vegas tonight?
Yeah.
Katy Perry concert.
Did you do it?
No, nobody wanted to go with me.
Not
My
even
brother
your
and
wife?
his wife and my wife. I'm like, guys, it's this Katy Perry
It's Katy Perry.
in Vegas. She's gonna show up with a dress that looks like a pop can, and she's gonna sing all these pop ballads that mean nothing.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
And it was like $75 a ticket, and I'm like, why are we not going? And we didn't go.
If I was there, I'd have been there.
Very disappointed.
Yeah. So we went to EXP Con in Vegas, and we had a party bus.
Oh yeah.
And okay, so I don't know if you know this, but you were the jackass that brought that Bud Light on the bus, right?
I did.
Okay.
It was all that was available in the freezer. You should have gotten. Did you go into that beer freezer?
No.
There was no
Nothing?
beer,
Just a 30-pack of Bud Light.
and then seltzers. And I turned to Dylan, and I knew he would be like, "I hate Bud Light," and I was like, "Dylan, I'm sorry, it's Bud Light, man, but this is all I could get."
But so we're on the bus, and AJ and I are sitting next to each other, and I look down, and there's this 30-pack of Bud Light. I don't drink beer, so I didn't even think anything of it. I was just like, that's a weird choice. Anyways, I'll just move on. And now it makes sense, though. That was the only thing. And at one point, there was a girl on the bus that got a pizza. Do you remember that?
No.
She we went to Fremont, and
Yeah.
then she got a pizza and came back on the bus.
Oh, I didn't see the
She had
pizza.
a pizza all by herself.
Yeah.
And we were all kind of just giving her shit, like, "Oh, did you bring enough pizza to share? Like, we're starving." And she turns around and she's she was kind of giving it back to us. And then she's like, "Yeah, and it's gluten free too." And like the dumbass I am, I was just I wanted to oversell her line of destroying us,
Yeah.
like it's gluten free. And I was like, "Whoa!" I fell back on the bus bench or the little seat there, and then I hit the seat and I rolled on the floor, landed directly on the Bud Light case. And at the time, hilarious, right? It's we're all "Oh, that was amazing. We're having fun." And then I wake up the next morning and I go to sit up and I was like, "Oh, what the fuck?" And I look down, I have this giant bruise on my abdomen
So good.
from this. So I called it my Bud Light bruise.
I was gonna say it's a Bud Light broken rib.
Oh my God, dude. I was just, so literally for a week straight, I just kept thinking about AJ and his stupid case of Bud Light beer.
If it was Coors, maybe it would have been Tall Boys. It would have really been a better fall.
Those are the strongest cardboard box I've ever landed
Very
on.
strong word.
I mean, the corner got me good.
That's
It was in
hilarious.
there. But yeah, so that's my fun Las Vegas story. But yeah, I feel like it depends. Going to Las Vegas and doing what we have done the past 3 years, to me, is becoming overrated.
Yeah.
I think Las Vegas, the shows and the dinners and all that stuff, if you did it with your wife or whatever, is very underrated. There's so much to do.
We did a lot of that too.
Yeah.
Over there. Which was fun.
But even still, one of my best memories in Vegas is the sports book with you 3 years ago.
Oh,
we had a blast watching the Twins.
So fun.
So there's so much to do in Vegas. I think me going there and getting ripped and just running around town, I've done it. It's fun. But I that part to me is getting a little overrated. I like that EXPCon will be in Miami.
Miami next year.
Very
Yeah.
looking-
We're getting old, so
We are getting old too. I get freaking bruised from a Bud Light case. In office or at home, for work?
I pick in office most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
That's not overrated, underrated. Just if you had to.
No, I do really well from home working, but I found that at least in spurts, the energy at the office makes a big difference, and people tend to talk to each other more and learn a lot more and collaborate.
Do you ever feel a distraction?
Yes.
Sometimes?
Yep, for sure. Our office isn't big. It's pretty open, so 20 people in there is kind of a lot.
Yeah.
But if there's a good burst of collaboration for 2 hours and then people kind of go on their
Yeah.
way, that's kind of the best way that we operate.
I'm a big in-office guy. I do find myself getting more done at home nowadays, though, just because I think, as you've alluded to, our business has kind of changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as grinded out. It's a little bit different. And there's times where maybe we have to have more conversations with agents that aren't necessarily appropriate at the sometimes it's I want to have a one-on-one with you.
Right.
So I do find myself at home more often, but it's efficient. It's not just sitting around.
Yeah.
But either one works. Real estate conferences, overrated, underrated?
Overrated.
I agree, 100%. Buyer consultations,
Way underrated.
probably the most underrated.
We focus so hard on these. I mean, we talked about online leads. We have lots of leads from Zillow through the program we're a part of. And I told them, whenever the ISAs go on vacation, I'll just hop myself on phone calls for a little bit. I don't take any of the leads.
Yeah.
I'll just take the call. And I told them, they're like, what do we do? The house is always sold because Zillow doesn't have contingent statuses.
Yeah.
I was like, guys, I'm not a genius. I literally have just said these lines over and over. You could practice the exact same lines that I do.
Yeah.
I can get a buyer meeting 50% of the time if the house is sold. They're like, no way you can do that. I'm like, I'll literally go through the whole script. Just try it one time. You'll get a buyer meeting.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult to do. And the buyer meeting is the best way to start expectation setting for that client so that the experience is seamless, stress-free.
Well, you set the
everybody.
expectations.
It's the biggest thing.
Because otherwise there's going to be a problem down the road that could have been addressed
I can't believe
front.
the grade is so bad on the outside of this house,
Right.
right? It's like, well, if you told them 4 times before it happened, they would have expected it.
Well, Tyler, we want the light bulb replaced. We want the carpet cleaned.
And all new GFI outlets.
Right, all new GFI outlets. But yeah, all that stuff can be addressed during a buyer consultation. So you can like sit in on a call with an agent like from your phone.
No, I can take them.
So you take the call.
Yeah, and I talk to the consumer. I'm
Oh,
like,
okay. You take it and then you give the lead.
Hey, Tyler, so sorry that house is sold. You know, I go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then I can get a buyer meeting. Yeah, it's so easy.
And then you just pass it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I do that too sometimes.
Yeah.
Teams.
Underrated. I got into real estate on a team. I was a solo agent for maybe 8 months before TK joined my team. I think if you're new to the industry, especially, even if you're not, like, you just don't know what to do most of the time. People are like searching for what to do a lot of the time. And a team is a great way for you to get your feet wet, maybe get some leads, but just get some mentorship and guidance to get going.
Well, I think it's the energy too, like you said. Like, if you're just having a bad week, you're down in the dumps, you lost out on an appointment or whatever, and then you just like have nobody to turn to. Like, this business is a lonely business, and your spouse probably freaking hates you at that moment because you're not making any money and whatever. It's like you got to have a team to go back to. I think you got to have some people, and the difference between a team and like just going back to the office is like these people are invested with you in a way, like they're talking the same language. Where in the office with a bunch of solo agents and stuff, that's great, but they're all on their own plans. They're all at different stages of their career. Usually they're not doing the same thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, the team energy is like the culture, all that stuff. That's a big word that gets thrown around, but it's, if you find the right one, it's like it can push you to be the best agent possible.
Absolutely.
Couple more. Multiple offers.
So overrated. I hate multiple offers.
I agree.
So stressful.
It's so stressful.
Gosh.
The nonsense we've had to deal with for the past like 3 years, dude. It's crazy.
And I tell people that now with buyers, especially.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, they're not meeting me where I want them to meet me. And I'm like, dude, I know it's hard, but 2 years ago, you would have come to me and I would have said, okay, you have to offer 10% over the list price. Here's some inspection terms you could offer. Do you have $40,000 above your down payment that you could offer them as an appraisal gap?
Right.
So like, it was just horrible.
It was, and you have 5 minutes to make the decision.
Let me know you guys go talk for 60 seconds. Come back to me.
We'll call you back at nope, do it on the phone. I want to hear it right now. Like, don't talk about
I'm currently putting the offer together on my cell phone.
Oh gosh, yeah, and like, yeah, okay, as a listing agent, multiple offers, it's cool, great, but like to compile 50 offers,
It's still a lot.
holy God,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no, it's not fun.
Terrible.
And like my clients also don't want to hear the other 48 offers. They want to know the top two. But guess what? We got to legally disclose all the
Here's
offers.
all of them.
My gosh. Yeah, so I'm glad the market is right now kind of it's a good spot. I feel like people can negotiate. Houses are still selling quickly, but it's like you don't have to make a decision in a second.
Yes.
The brokerage choice, overrated, underrated.
I mean, now that I'm at EXP, I'd say it's pretty underrated. I would say even my previous places. I mean, at Remax, it was really just because of Jeff and Lindsay. Then they owned the brokerage after that, and that was massive for me because just having people that are the leaders at the company really invested in how you're doing is pretty important. So I think some people go to these 100% brokerages thinking I'm going to make all this money. It's like, well, the support that you get is also very, very important.
Yeah, I agree. I personally think that brokerage to me is slightly overrated. I think it's the people that you surround yourself with, which entails the right brokerage, right? But like, for example, if I picked you up and just plopped you down at name the 100% commission brokerage, you'd still be successful, in my opinion. Yeah, because you're AJ effing Pettersen. You're not. I work at EXP, so I'm automatically successful.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I think be careful with your brokerage choice with like surrounding yourself with the right tools and the right people. But at the end of the day, if you're a badass, you're gonna be a badass anywhere. It's just maybe you're not reaching your full potential. Yeah. If you're not at the right spot. So, but yeah, for what it's worth, I mean, I used to be at a different brokerage as well, Edina Realty, and great company, but the opportunity here is crazy.
Yep.
Which follows up with the next one I wrote down, EXP Realty, which I think we can both say is underrated. Underrated and underappreciated.
Yeah,
Like,
I think there's some bad actors within the company that make people say, "Oh, that company does is recruit and this, that, and the other thing." We've kind of flown in the face of that with our group and trying to be a production based and do a really good job, add value, and all that.
It's amazing the misconceptions that people have though. Still, like it's like you think that everybody knows what we have to offer, but they don't. And then you talk to them, and they're just mind blown every time. So, yeah, it's a great opportunity. Let's see. Days off within your business.
I don't have days off.
Yeah, you do.
Not really.
You take some time away.
I take time off. Yeah, I don't really have set days off. I know you do.
You work the weekends?
Pretty much. I mean, I don't remember the last day where I didn't like open an email.
Well, yeah.
I will say.
Okay. How about days off from appointments?
Oh yeah,
right.
All the time.
You have those.
Oh yeah, I love that. Right now, I don't have very many days off because I'm working on finishing a rental property project and my own house. And then also representing clients and running my team. So there's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I value just rest time, really. Most of the time, that's like middle of the day hanging out with my wife.
Well, and like you alluded to, I try to take Wednesdays off, for example. But like yesterday, I was doing some things. I went to a broker open for one of our partners. And it just depends on the day, I guess. But I think the people that say that they haven't taken a day off in like a year or something, I just want to punch them or like shake them or slap them, do something. It's like, you guys, your clients will still be there if you just don't care for a day. You know what I mean? Now, if you have an offer you're negotiating or whatever, like if you don't have a backup plan, that's on you. But other than that, like that list we talked about, that you're supposed to be accomplishing every day, if you just put that away for a day, it's not going to kill you.
No.
Not going to kill you.
It'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be there. But if you put it away for a day and then it turns into 5 and then it turns into a month.
And then you're like, why don't I have any business?
Right. Then that's a problem. Don't do that. When somebody said, I already know the answer to this. When somebody says, well, I've been in the industry for 30 years. Does that mean anything to you, AJ?
It makes me so angry.
No. I just want to be like, well, how many houses have you sold in the last year? That's what I really want to come back with.
Yeah, people that like would say you're young, you've only been doing this 9 years, or they don't even look you up and they just say that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, it's one of these guys again. And you're like, that's fine that you feel that way, but this is how this is going to go.
Yep. The industry experience play doesn't work. So don't even I got to catch myself now because I've been doing this for 10, 11 years and I've been in it. I've had my license since I was 18. So that's what is that? Is that 19 years? That's stupid. I feel so old. But I could easily be like, well, I've had my license for 20 years.
20 years.
I'm never going to say that ever.
I've never seen anyone write that into a purchase agreement before. It's the first time ever.
I've been doing this for 1,000 years.
I had people, in baseball, I had people say all the time, I've been teaching this for 20 years, 40 years, whatever. I'm like, you've been teaching it the wrong way.
For 20 years.
It's a long time to do it wrong.
It's a long time to screw it up. A good assistant.
Oh, so underrated.
Life-changing.
I had an assistant for 10 hours a week my third year. I hired this guy as a buddy of mine. He's like, I got some part-time. I can transaction coordinate for you. Yeah. That's it. 10 hours a week. I went from 29 transactions to 55 transactions.
Yep.
With 10 hours of help.
Yep.
Yeah. Their good staff is absolutely mind-blowing game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. The most stress I've ever been in my entire career was the first year full-time with no assistant. It was just me selling 30 houses by myself.
I did that too. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't send it to the title company.
3 a.m. I was up to doing emails almost every day.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Brutal.
So yeah, if you're at that point, please just take the chance and look at it this way. You're not committing to a salary of, let's just call it 50,000 or whatever it is. You're committing to a month.
Yeah.
Okay. Just try it out for a month. And if it doesn't work, then move on.
Yeah.
You're not out 50 grand. You're out 4. Try it because it will change your life.
Yes.
Business cards.
So overrated. I do have some in my pocket.
I have a few too.
Just in case I run into someone who maybe is a little older that really wants a business card, I will give it to them. A lot of times I'm like, oh, shoot, I just ran out.
Yep. I'm out. What's your phone number?
Yeah.
Because I'll text you really quick. That's what I do every time.
It is so funny.
Or I'm like, hey, let's just find each other on social media really quick.
Seriously.
Let's see here. I got a few other ones. I just want to make sure that I ask you ones that are relevant. we talked about internet leads. We don't need to get into that. Business partnerships.
Underrated.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that until I got to EXP, to
I
be
know.
honest. I didn't even know Parker when I joined EXP.
Yeah.
Never had met him in my life. Met him for the first time. And I was like, oh, wow. And then we became really good buddies, and we just talk all the time about different things that we can do because we run very similar models.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, been a huge reason why we went from 120 transactions 4 years ago to 400 this year.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then the last one I wrote down was being a team leader.
Overrated.
Yes. Every team leader I've had on here, even Julie D, said the same thing.
Oh, it's just a lot of work.
It's just I don't know why people think when when people are like team leader, I think they immediately just think like wealthy beyond.
Oh yeah.
Like it's like we found
just milking money off
the
these
hidden
people.
tomb in
Yeah.
Aladdin with all the treasure, and we're just like rubbing a lamp, and like all this shit just happens, and we have all this money. It's like it takes the right person, I think, to do this job, because it's a lot of work for other people. Mm-hmm. Like, how many hours a day do you get to actually focus on your personal business?
It's half probably. of
Like
the
what
time
it
that
used
I
to
spend.
be,
Yeah.
right? And it's just like, how can you do that?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You go from, well, I need all these hours in the day to run my business, to, well, I only get half that, and I also have to worry about everyone else's business, right? And yes, there are great benefits to being a team leader. We do it because we love it. We love to help people, right?
Yep.
And we feel like we can really change people's lives. But I talk to people all the time. They're like, they're crushing it in real estate, and I'll be like, well, what's next? Like, what are you going to do? I'll probably start a team.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why? Like, I mean, more money. And I just laugh. I like start laughing. Like, I laugh like really loud now on purpose, because I'm just like, no. In fact, in the first few years, you're going to make less money,
Working harder.
working way more, and your personal business is going to take a giant shit.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that, great. Otherwise, maybe you join a team that you just leverage, and
Or
then-
just hire some staff, man. You're doing fine.
yeah. Like, oh my God, this one guy I talked to, he was like, yeah, I'm gonna start spending lots of money on marketing. And I was like, you sold 100 houses with one person, like one showing agent, and they were all referral. And you want to start marketing? Why?
What's
I was
the
like,
point?
you won.
You are marketing.
You hit the cheat code button.
Yeah,
you just bypassed 5 years of BS and just was like, I'm just gonna work off referral for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Sell 100 houses a year. I'm like, don't do that.
No.
Like, I mean, yeah, like post on social, I guess, but don't spend any money.
I need more leads. How am I going to sell more? It's like, well, you're going to need more people then, and then more headaches,
don't need
and then more
to.
things, and yeah, you're doing
You've
great.
won.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but I think it's just the ego in this industry. Like, people want to be the best, so I got to be a team leader or whatever, and it's just like, no, team leaders are for a specific type of people.
Yeah.
It's not about money at all. It's about leverage, and it's about changing lives, right? So, yeah, I think it's very overrated as well. And if I would have known about EXP's model when I started a team, I always say, like, I may not have a team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when I was at Edina Realty, we didn't have the ability to, like, partner with people.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different, like, wild concept of just, like, you may not even need to, like, have a team, really. You can just, like, have a bunch of business partners, and you can all help each other out, too. So, well, that's all I got for today.
Oh, it's great.
I know. I really appreciate you being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I learned a lot. I had a lot of good reminders, too, that I definitely will be passing on to my team. And for anybody else out there who is listening or watched this, I hope you guys took some stuff away from this. I'm sure AJ will say the same thing, but feel free to reach out to me or AJ at any time. We would love to help you with any questions or struggles or whatever you got going on in your business. We're always here just to kind of offer up what we have. But anybody else out there who thinks that they might know somebody that would be a good fit for this podcast, or you yourself listening or watching thinks that you have something to add to this podcast, I'd love to add you as a guest. Please reach out to me on any of our socials. I mean, realtors can't hide from anybody.
No.
You can if you can't find me, like,
You're
I
struggling.
don't know what's
Your
going on.
connection is wrong.
Don't reach out to me if you can't find, like, you're probably not a good fit. But anyways, thanks again for watching and listening, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope that this helps you level up.
Nice.
See ya.